Hello dear students. Today we are going to speak about CLIL or Clil. So what is Clil? The acronym Clil means Content and Language Integrated Learning, where we use the content to learn the language and we use language in order to learn content. In Clil we have two aims. One of them is the language aims and content aims. The education system undergoes huge changes, and there are a lot of interdisciplinary methodologies right now. And Clil is one of the methodologies we should mention about. But Clil was introduced in 20th century by David Marsh. After implementing this methodology in European countries, it became very popular among other countries worldwide. Clil methodology provides all the necessary tools in order to achieve these two dual-focused aims, which I mentioned before, language aims and content aims. Nowadays in our country, we use this methodology in learning biology, chemistry, or physics. We learn basic words or terminology of that language, or also we learn the language using the content. So Clil consists of 4 C's curriculum, which was introduced by Professor Clil. About this concept, my brother will speak about.
Thank you. Let me tell you about 4C. 4C. Why it is called 4C? Because we have 4 words, which starts with the letter C. The content, communication, culture, and cognition. So what is content? Content is the subject itself, is the language of the subject. We learn the content on this component. And what is communication? Communication is the language of the classroom, the communication between the students and the teacher and students with students. About this part, deeply will speak my brother. What is next? The next is culture. With learning the language, we learn the culture. Without learning the culture, we can't learn the language, because culture have these concepts and meanings of the language, of the authentic language. And also, scientists are divided the culture into 2 parts, like big culture and small culture, or big C or small c. What is big C? Big culture means the big culture of the language, like music, art, traditions, or the culture itself of that language or the nation. And what is small culture? The small culture is the culture of personality or behavior, or that society, how they behave themselves in the family or among friends, how they use the language in the streets or in the family or a job. What is next? The next is cognition. Cognition, we must also consider Bloom's taxonomy while we're speaking about cognition. Cognition, in other words, is the thinking or the process of brain work, how we use our brain while we are communicating or doing the tasks. So Bloom's taxonomy, we have 6 stages, and they are divided into 2 categories: low order thinking skills and higher order thinking skills. Or in other words, lower order cognitive thinking skills and higher order cognitive thinking skills. There are, which I mentioned, 6 stages, like remembering, understanding, applying. These are the lower order thinking skills. And higher order thinking skills are create, analyze, and evaluate. So while having the lesson with 4C and cognition component, you should consider these categories: lower order thinking skills and higher order thinking skills. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let me tell you about language TRIPTYCH. Language TRIPTYCH is part of communication component of 4C's curriculum, which was also introduced by Professor Clil. So what is language TRIPTYCH? Why it is called TRIPTYCH? Because it consists of 3 components: language of learning, language for learning, and language through learning. It also viewed as a pyramid. So on the top we have language of learning, the right side is language for learning, and the left side is language through learning. So what is language of learning? Language of learning is the basic concepts, basic terminology of that specific subject. The terms like photosynthesis or skeleton or liver or kidney in biology. This is an example of language of learning. The next component is language for learning. Language for learning is the language of the classroom, the language of communication among students and between teacher and the student. While communicating teacher and students with students, they are doing tasks, they are solving problems, they are agreeing, disagreeing, sharing opinions, they can ask permission and other functions of language. So in this case, they are using language for learning. This is the language of the classroom. And teacher also can provide this language in the lesson in order to support or scaffold his students. The next component is language through learning. The language through learning is the combination of both previous mentioned components, language of learning and language through learning. The combination of the basic terminology or the language of the content and the language of the classroom, and these languages are drilled and practiced again and again in the classroom, and then we will have the last component, language through learning. And the aim of this model, the language triptych, is the academic language or the new language. So, and also this becomes an aim of Clil methodology because we learn the content using the language and we use content in order to learn language. So that means when we learn a specific content, for example, in the case of when we learn biology or chemistry or physics, we learn academic language. So we can say that the aim of the Clil is academic language. And language triptych is the model that will help students and teacher to achieve, to perceive that language, to acquire that language. Thank you, dear students. Today we spoke about Clil methodology, 4C's curriculum, and language triptych. See you